Most people think you need dozens of different exercises to build an impressive physique, incredible strength and real athleticism, but the truth is, if you just master 3 fundamental movement patterns, you can build pretty much everything you will ever need. And you can do so from the comfort of your home. Pull-ups, push-ups and squats have stood the test of time for a reason. So today, I will show you how to use those 3 calisthenics basics from very beginner to very advanced variations to build a stronger, more muscular and more mobile capable body. So if you're ready, let's go have some fun. Starting out with what is probably people's most favorite muscle to train. We're talking of course about leg musculature, for which our most foundational exercise will be the classic deep squat. Jokes aside, one of the top quality of life and longevity indicators is leg strength, and we're not talking about muscle size. I do not have a single large muscle in my body except for this one. However, my lower body capabilities speak for themselves, I would say. And having stronger, more mobile, more capable legs will literally carry you throughout your life. Build a foundation of 20 to 40 repetitions at a minimum, and if you cannot squat to depth for whatever reason, just elevating your heels above your toes will make a world's difference in how deep you can go into this movement pattern, increasing your range of motion. And as you progress through this exercise over time, as your ankles, knees and hips open up, you will be able to squat deeper and deeper, developing the necessary mobility and strength for this to come. Now, adding knee touchdowns at the lowest point in our movement pattern will add a massive amount of mobility and hip flexor strength, as well as coordination for our entire body and stabilization, so we do not lose our balance. To a wider stance parallel with our feet for the first level of Cossack squats, working on our mobility and strength to bring our hip joint all the way down to knee height while keeping our leg extended, our feet parallel and flat, and our back straight as well. And over time we will start moving to level number 2, adding stabilization and more external hip rotation in the extended leg, as well as internal hip rotation by reversing, bringing our feet flat on the floor and repeating on the other side, switching between internal and external rotation, adding more hip flexor strength as well as flexibility by now lowering our knee in a unilateral movement pattern, now requiring a lot more strength and coordination as well as full body control to raise out of this without losing your balance, and repeating on the same or different side depending on if you want to maximize muscle fatigue by always working one-sided for a full set like so before you switch it up to the other direction, or if you want to stay more symmetrical and move left to right. And final variation for those of you who want to pass the intermediate level to the more advanced variations, we will combine this setting down of our knee with setting down our hips entirely and folding forwards towards the extended leg, now maximizing posterior chain flexibility and now requiring massive amounts of strength and control to raise out of this, and repeat on the other side. Push back, fold towards the extended leg, and always raise your knee first before you raise out of this movement and lower down all the way. And then what is one of my favorite movements, starting with a very beginner-friendly Bulgarian split squat, maximizing anterior chain flexibility in our lower body, specifically our quads, and a little bit of hip flexor flexibility as well, while building massive amounts of glute and quad strength once more. And over time, we're going to start working only on our toes, now adding a lot of foot musculature and a massive amount of balance and stabilization throughout our entire body for longer and longer ranges of motion until you are ready for our true goal, working with elevation in our front leg to maximize flexibility surrounding our adductor, our hip flexors, our quads, and opening up our entire hips, and longer ranges of motion for maximum amounts of strength building combined with stabilization and flexibility. Of course, we can also raise our heel here to add even more calf strength, even more stabilization, even more strength, and blah, blah, blah. Finally, moving us to the ultimate unilateral squat variation, the classic pistol squat, for a full range of motion, seated with extended legs, massive amounts of quad, hip flexor strength, balance, flexibility, coordination, and a lot of fun to work on, especially if you're still getting used to all of those leg exercises, for which you might need a full guide, which you can check out right here. As usual, this video is sponsored by you. By liking this video, subscribing to the channel, watching the whole video until the end, maybe sharing it, hell, maybe even you're crazy enough to leave a comment. That is the only type of sponsorship I could ever ask for. And I will diligently use the ad money to buy even more gourmet cat food. moving us to what is probably the calisthenics GOAT. I am talking, of course, about the classic pull-up. And if you can keep these 3 variations in mind before you get into the normal pull-up, you will have such an easy and such a quick progress, you will be surprised by yourself. Number 1, work on a classic scapular pull-up before you even start bending your arms fully, so we can work on the coordination for our scapula when it comes to elevation and abduction, as well as depression and adduction. Number 2, instead of using an overhand grip, which is reversed for pull-ups, use an underhand grip, which is a less back and latissimus and more biceps dominant pulling variation for your upper body and requires a lot less strength. But this one is far easier to master and will help you build the necessary foundation for a complete pull-up. Last but definitely not least, we will work on our forearm or grip strength. Once you are strong enough to work with both hands for 30 seconds of static dead hangs, you can start working on a single-handed hang, which is next to building a lot of strength. Also help you decompress your joints and lengthen and stretch your lats, your shoulders, your pecs, and can be an immense benefit for people who have shoulder or back problems, especially lumbar back problems. And now you're ready for the full progression. Number 1, the classic overhand grip pull-up, latissimus dominant and symmetrical. Number 2, the mixed grip pull-up, combining overhand and underhand for a more unilateral movement pattern and switching it up left to right so we do not end up like Quasimodo. Number 3, very narrow overhand grip, always full range of motion. And now getting to some of the more exciting variations. We've got a super wide overhand grip for classic archer pull-ups, very unilateral, one arm always extended and always bringing our shoulder into contact with the bar above. Next up, keeping this very wide grip, we have got the typewriter, where we switch directions at the top of the movement pattern before we move back to the middle and reverse all the way. And putting the last variations together into one movement pattern, the circular pull-up, which basically targets every single muscle fiber in your entire body, of course working in a controlled fashion and into both directions for perfect symmetry. And then we can add 2 more factors to basically every single one of those. Number 1 being explosiveness and speed, and number 2 being the opposite, slowing down both the positives and the negatives as much as we can for massive amounts of strength, coordination, stabilization in our upper body, and a whole lot of torture for those of you who do enjoy that. And finally, building massive amounts of chesticles or titty strength, and we want to do this perfectly from the get-go, so keeping those tiny cues in mind will make this a lot more efficient for you. Starting out with an assisted variation, tilt your pelvis forward, rounding your lower back, and then very importantly, we're going to push our shoulders forward the tiniest bit and lengthen to scapular abduction. Now for a full range of motion, all the way down, chest to the floor, and all the way up doesn't mean extending your arms. It also means, once again, full abduction and pulling our arms together, as well as rounding our back. So our full repetitions will look something like this. Get a feeling for the scapular abduction and adduction, as well as the lumbar or pelvic rotation. And we've got our first true level. Shoulders forward, pelvic tilt, lengthened shoulders, chest to the floor, and full abduction at the top. Of course, we've got full core engagement as well, and a long ass range of motion. So for the very classical foundational variations, the diamond push-up for a little bit more triceps engagement, shoulder wide elbows tucked variation for a little bit more triceps engagement, elbows flared variation for a little bit more chest engagement, the staggered variation for a little bit more unilateral strength and combining a little bit more stabilization and core with a lot of chest and a lot of triceps. The archer, one arm always fully extended for a massive amount of flexibility benefits for our shoulders and our chest, with a lot of strength benefits for our chest, shoulders, arms, and core as well. The typewriter, going down to the middle, switching at the lowest point before we reverse to the middle and extend once more, as well as the circular, where we go unilaterally first, switch at the bottom, extend all the way to the top one-sided, and then switch directions in a circular motion. And once again, we can add two more things. We've got adding explosivity for a little bit more explosive type muscle fiber inclusion, and the torture of very slow motion movement patterns requiring a lot of strength, a lot of coordination over time, and adding static holds at the lowest point, at the midpoint, at the top point, and alternating between those will help you massively. When it comes to strength, then we can start alternating explosively between wide, narrow stances, as well as front and back staggered, left to right, and add some clapping motions in between so you have a longer range of motion and a little bit more explosivity. And of course you can do all of these variations in an assisted fashion, from the classic ones to the diamond ones, even to the archer ones, until you develop a little bit of a feeling for the movement pattern, as well as the necessary strength and mobility in your upper body to start going into a complete range of motion. There you go. You can start with as little as a single variation for each one of those exercises, single set for each of those, building your way up until you can do 10 to 14 repetitions, work your way up to adding a second set over time. And as you progress through strength, mobility, and coordination, you can start adding more and more advanced variations. With that said, join us. We do stuff like that very regularly, which means I'll probably see you soon. So until then, have a good one, Captain Cairo. Peace out.